Good morning, everybody. Good morning, good morning, good morning. Happy Wednesday to you. Welcome to Business Mastery Live Webinar Wednesdays. My name is Cheston Bulgin with By the Books Consulting. We're going to get right into this. Today, we're going to be talking about financial literacy. Hopefully, you're going to get some really good insights that you can use and put foot to pavement, as you will. Like actually utilize this and deploy this in your business and in your life to make sure that you have a new level of success inside of what you do. Okay, so let's go, guys. Once again, this is me, Cheston Bulgin, Senior Consultant at By the Books Consulting. This is how you reach us at bythebooksconsultants.com, or you can reach us at youraccountingsuperhero.com. And a quick disclaimer before we get started. The following is for educational purposes only and is not to be considered financial, accounting, or legal advice. Please consult your tax, accounting, and or legal professional for specific advice. And if you're in this conversation, we want to make sure we're forwarding this talk, the information that we share here, to make sure that it's delivering the value to you, the things that are going to make the most difference inside of your business and inside of your life. And you can do that by emailing me, Cheston at bythebooksconsultants.com, or you can reach out to me on social media at Your Accounting Superhero on IG or LinkedIn. 10-figure business mastery, guys. This is the conversation we've been in for a little while now. We have 4 tenets on which we stand. These are the pillars, the foundation of what it is that we do here. Number 1 is intentionality, which we call mindset mastery. Number 2 is financial mastery, which is also financial literacy. Number 3, structures and system mastery. This is what we call system mastery, structures. Last but not least, we have actions, also known as execution mastery. We have all these 4 components inside of our business. Then we have something that is humming. Man, high performance, doing the job, delivering the intended results that we're looking to get out of our business and in the lives that we are looking to create. So today's topic, financial literacy. We're in this conversation, that second pillar that we talked about, financial mastery, which is financial literacy. Today we're going to talk about some basics. Okay, I'm going to get back down to fundamentals. So if you're new inside of business, or even if you've been in business for a while, and you figure that you really don't know or not feel that as though you're comfortable with some of the financial terminologies and the financial understanding of the business, you really shy away from that. I'm hoping to bridge that gap to make it seem as though it's very simple for you. Numbers are the language of business. And if you don't understand the language of business, then you're not really going to get to the levels that you really want to ultimately. So you want to take this into consideration. A couple of things before we get started. We're going to start talking about the basic components of financial literacy. This is the book that we're talking about. Running it by the books. This is the book, Financial Statements. Income statement, balance sheet, cash flow statement. Okay. And today we're going to focus on the income statement, which is really a performance-based thing. We're going to talk about that right now. So if you look at income statements, so another terminology for this is a profit and loss statement. Okay. These are good for you to get loans for yourself, loans in your business, loans for you personally. Okay. A lot of times when you look to seek financing, they're going to ask for a year-to-date profit and loss statement. They're going to ask for your tax returns, most likely 2 years if you're going a traditional financing route. And if you're looking to get business funding, it's all the same. They're going to ask for the financials of the business. And really it comes down to this, number 1, your profit and loss statement, your income statement. They will ask for a balance sheet, something that we'll talk about at a later time, but they will always ask for this. They want to see how much cash your business is creating. How much income is your business creating? Okay. How is that business performing is what they're going to look at. Now, the other thing that we use this for is making choices in our business. We want to have clear decisions when it comes to moving in a certain direction. We want to improve what we're doing. We got to make the right calls inside of the business. In order to make those right calls, we're going to have the information in front of us that's reliable to make those calls. Okay, so the profit and loss statement is that information that gives us the ability to make clear decisions in business. And what would it be like if you're able to print money? What would it be like if at any given time you could go out here and print money for yourself, and create whatever it is that you want to create in your business just because you say so? Well, having a clear understanding of what's impacting the business in terms of performance, which is your profit and loss statement, will enable you to do that, print money. Man, that would be fantastic. Okay. Now, life doesn't necessarily have to be a mystery. Business does not necessarily have to be a mystery. A lot of the things that we do that do not achieve results, there is a definitive cause for that. We just need to do the looking. Now, if we're tracking everything, this allows us to do the looking. If we understand the financial literacy of the business, it allows us to really see when we do the looking, if that makes sense. All right. So coming into budgeting and making decisions, really important here, guys, to understand the financial statements. Really important to understand an income statement, profit and loss statement. All right, so some basics of behind a profit and loss statement. This is the top to bottom. We talk about top line and bottom line inside of profit and loss. Top line, bottom line. So what's top line? Top line is good stuff, man. Good stuff meaning this is the money I bring in. I'm bringing in some money. That's good. All right, it's top line, man. I love the top line because that's all the money I get to bring in to my business. And we want to make sure that that top line is going up every single period, which means every month, every year, and so on. How can I make that top line go up? That's the exciting question to ask. All right, so we're talking about sales, right? So revenue. These are cash and what we call credit sales. So cash sales are just money. Basically, we get trade cash for services or cash for product. Okay. Now, credit sales basically means that, I trade the product. I'm still getting compensated for the product or service that I deliver, but I don't get cash right now for that. I instead say, okay, you can pay me in 30 days. You can pay me in 45 days. You can pay me in 60 days. That's what we call a credit sale. All right. Invoicing, accounts receivable. Okay. It's still top line is still sales nonetheless, is what I want to say. All right. So as we move down from the top line, we're going to see things that impact that. All right. So we have direct costs. And this is the thing we're going to get really into today. Talk about direct costs. Things that I would not incur otherwise, like these costs. I wouldn't have to have this cost if I did not produce the product or the service. So as long as I'm not producing the product or service, I don't have a cost to incur. What do I mean? Well, let's say you sell widgets, right? In order to sell a widget, you need to make a widget. You need to produce a widget, and there's a cost associated with producing a widget. Now, if you didn't sell any widgets, you wouldn't have to produce any more widgets to sell. All right. So let's say you're selling widgets for $30 and it costs you $10 to make a widget, right? So your direct cost of that is $10, which leaves you to the next line, which is a gross profit of $20, right? Now the direct cost to create the widget, all those costs associated with it are labor costs and material costs, manufacturing costs, all those things that are associated with producing that widget go into our direct costs. Now, after we consider those and we sell that widget, that gives us a gross profit. It costs us $10 to make it. We sell it for $30. Our gross profit is $20. It's like 33% of a gross profit margin. Follow me? All right. And keeping it really basic and really simple. Okay. Now, if you don't follow me, just let me know. You can type in the chat, comment, or share later on if you're watching this video as it's on YouTube or in the group. Okay, and we'll answer that question for you. Okay, but bottom line, this is the gross profit. Direct costs impact our gross profit. Still toward the top of this income statement. Still top line stuff. Okay. Now after that, we come into the middle of this financial statement, and these are all of our fixed costs. These are our expenses. Fixed costs and other operating expenses. Okay. So these are things that regardless of whether or not you sell your widgets or provide your service, they're going to come. Okay, these are things like insurance. Maybe you have salaries that you pay out. They're not necessarily tied in to whether or not somebody sells a product or service. You might have administrative staff. They work in the office and they get paid to come in and do office work. These are things like licenses and permits. Maybe you go to the Secretary of State and you do your filings there. Whatever you need to pay in order to keep yourself in business, those are those things. Then we have office expenses, like computer, utility costs, all these things that go along with operating the business that go into the middle of this income statement. Now, the thing about reading this document, when we look at the activity of our business, we want to see line per line what is impacting my bottom line, which is when we get to the bottom line, we're talking about net profit. We don't see it here, but at the bottom, at the end of the day, I brought in all this money and then I spent all this money. So what is the net impact of that? Is it a profit or is it a loss? That's the bottom line. Okay. Now, throughout this process, we want to be able to look and see and dive into each line to see how it's impacting the business. And if there are certain things in there that I can look at to adjust to make sure that my performance is improved in the future. Now, if I don't have a process to do this, if I'm not taking my bookkeeping seriously, some of you guys don't take bookkeeping seriously. I know it. I've heard you. I've seen you. I've been inside your homes, sitting there watching Netflix and not doing your bookkeeping work. I've seen you. All right. You're not taking it seriously. And you want to take this stuff seriously because this is your life. All right. And when it comes down to it, there's so many things that we want to do in this world, so many things we want to achieve, so many people that we want to impact and be around. There are things that we want to accomplish in our lives, things that we want to experience in our lives. And we're not going to be able to do those things if we don't have the resources, the tools, and everything that provides for those. And if you're an entrepreneur, you're in this conversation and you know that your business provides that. Now, if you're not doing everything that it takes to win inside of your business, then you're cutting yourself short inside of life. You're not going to have the experiences that you want. You're not really going to get at the end of the day, that lifestyle that you sought to have as an entrepreneur, that freedom, that wealth, that legacy that you're looking to have as an entrepreneur. It won't be the case if you're not taking this seriously. It won't. And now either you're going to do it yourself or you're going to have somebody else handle it for you. Either way, the choice wants to be made. You want to handle these things because it is direct access to a level up in life. It's a direct access to you being able to do the things that you really want to do in life and not just be at the whim of circumstance. You can actually manipulate and control your destiny. Okay. That's why this is important. All right. So that's that's the income statement. All right. Profit and loss statement. Now, as we get into it more thoroughly, planning for the profitability of your business, it really comes down to understanding like what it takes to cover your costs. And then outside of that, make the profit that you want to make in your business. So today we're going to talk about break-even analysis in your business. You might have heard this before. You may not have. Either way, we're having this conversation and there's something to be gained from it. Okay. I remember early on getting started in business and, there was a lot of like ambiguity. I didn't really understand. I didn't know there was uncertainty there as far as how, my business would do, if I would be able to make it, if I would be able to cover all the costs that were incurred. How would I know, for sure if I should spend this money? How would I know for sure if I'm actually going to make it out in the end of this month, if I'm actually going to have a top side profit versus I'm going to go in the hole, like lose money? And how do I know if I'm actually going to have the cash at the end of that period to make sure that my business stays alive and that it supports my life? Okay. Now I was in that place. Now, when you may have been in that place, you may be in that place, right? And then there's other places to be inside a business where I'm just at a plateau. I've been here for a certain period of time, and I just don't know how to get beyond it. It seems like it's just not meant to be, and I'm just stuck. Well, if we take the time to count the costs, we take the time to look into what's happening here, and plan this thing out properly, then there's access to new ways of life, new level of life, breakthrough in life, and breakthrough in business that otherwise would not be there. Okay, so if you take a real hard look at, what it is that we're doing here, what are your fixed costs? Count those things. Like what is it that you pay every month? Okay, and we're going to do something called a break-even analysis. So I know I have, let's say, and this is really before we get into it, the break-even. This is just the formula here that we're looking at. It's fixed costs over your gross profit margin. All right, this is if you want to know how much money you need to bring in order to just make sure your costs are covered. Okay, anything above and beyond this, you just tack that onto the fixed cost number, and then you're going to have the number. So you just add that to your fixed cost, then divide that number by your gross profit margin. Okay, so fixed cost is a break-even point. Divide that by your gross profit margin, and if you actually wanted to have a profit, you just add that to your fixed cost and divide that by your gross profit margin. Right? We're going to get a little bit more into that right now in this conversation. All right, so let's say that you have $25,000 a month that you pay in fixed costs. You know that this is for your business. You have to pay these costs every single month. Now, I'm just like, ouch, you just have that nugget you got to pay, right? Just felt that, 25,000, right? No matter what. Now, let's say that you have this gross profit margin of 50%, right? So it costs you, for everything that you're selling, it costs you about 50% of the sales price to sell that. Okay, that's your direct cost that we talked about earlier. All right, the widget, let's say the widget, you're selling a widget for 30, and it actually costs you 15 to make. All right, so that's 50% of the $30 of sale. Right, that's what you get to keep, the gross profit margin. Okay. Now let's say that your fixed costs are $25,000 a month, which means that you would need to sell $50,000 a month just to break even. Now, anything on top of that, if you want to make, like, let's say you want to make a profit, you would just add that to your fixed costs, and then take that gross profit margin into account and divide that by the gross profit margin. Okay, and that's the number that you would have to sell each month in order to achieve that result. Okay, so it's no longer a mystery. You know your targets. This is where you need to go. Now, if it's realistic is another question to ask. Is it realistic for you to do that in your industry and your market? This is also what you want to know and research and understand. Or is there some other way that you want to do this outside of this industry? So we already know that if we're selling 50,000, if we actually have 25,000 in fixed costs, and our gross profit margin is 50%, we know we need to sell 50,000 in order to break even. Okay. Now, there's also, well, how many units do we need to sell? What's the numbers that we need to have to sell this every single month, every single period, in order to produce that 50,000 so that we can keep that money, right? So we're going to take that fixed cost over that gross profit number that we have. So, for example, let's say that in the prior slide we said our gross profit margin was 50%. We're selling widgets, and the widget cost is $15. We're selling the widget for $30, and the cost is 15. So we have 15 in that. But let's say, for example, let's actually take that out and put another example in here, so you can see. Let's say for every unit you sell, that 50% is $500. Okay, so basically you're selling units for 1,000, and you get to keep 500 out of that 1,000. So how many units would you need to sell in order to break even? Okay, so we take that 25,000, we divide it by our 500, and we get this total units per month that we need to sell. It's pretty much about between 1 and 2 units per day if we're going a 30-day month. And we know we need to do a little bit more than 2 a day if we're going a 20-day month. Okay, so those are your targets that you want to have in order to break even. Now, if you want to do more than that, now you want to make sure you're increasing that. Well, your sales quotas are going to be like, well, 4 or 5 a day. I want to make sure I double that fixed cost so that I have the profitability I want. I want to make 25,000 on top of that. I want to make 70,000 on top of that. We just want to increase the amount of sales target, performance targets that we have inside of our operations per unit. And we can scale from there. We actually know these numbers. We can start looking to scale by the books. Okay. Now, this is a really good conversation to be in as far as the basic fundamental understanding of your business. If you have a working knowledge of this, if you're a small business owner and you're like not really scaled up yet, or even if you have a decent size operation, it's not just you, but you have maybe a team of maybe 10 people or somewhere around there. Well, now you can direct this and say, okay, we have a focus here now where we did not have it before. And we know when we're winning our game on a daily level. If we did the job here per day, then we know we're winning. If we executed on our daily performance targets. If I know that I'm doing 3 units a day in sales, and today I go in and do 5 units, I know that I won big. I won big today. I did more than double my target. So that's fantastic. Now, the flip side of that is when I don't hit that target, I know I'm falling short of it, then I know that I need to go to work. Somewhere, somehow I need to go to work in order to make sure that we do achieve our targets. Okay. Now, when we set these goals, we're not just going at fixed costs. We talked about break-even analysis today. Okay. Just to get an idea of what it takes to make sure we're covering all of our expenses. But we're not in business to just cover all of our expenses. We want to make sure that we're here to flourish inside of our business, which means we have excess and abundance inside of what we do, which means that whatever amount that you set for yourself, you play a game around this thing. Well, I actually want to profit $30,000 a month. I want to profit $100,000 a month. I want to profit $500,000 a month. I want to profit $2 million a month. These are games that we can play based on these basic numbers. This does not change. It never does. Now, the idea, the goal, the desire, that is you. That is a thing that changes. But the basics do not. The principles do not. They always stay the same. It's up to you to create this in your life. It's up to you to say, okay, this is what I want. It's up to you to say, this is my integrity in the matter and what I'm sticking to inside of the basics of reading this. You can have a fundamental approach to your business to just say, okay, well, this is actually what it cost me to produce what I produce. I'm going to find that cost, that direct cost number by any means necessary. I'm going to find what that is, because when I find that, that's going to give me access to scalability. What are my fixed costs right now? Now, if I grow this business, if I'm doing a multiplier of 1.5, then I'm going to have these extra fixed costs because I have to spend this much more on an ongoing basis. Now, I know exactly what I need to do to profit this much. Man, the game actually opens up for you. It becomes more of a sort of an exciting process than a lot of us experience worry around this. Like, am I going to make it? Like, there's an ebb and flow of business that says sometimes it's up, sometimes it's down. Nothing I can do about it. And here, there is something. There is something that you can own up to. There's something that you can do just by focusing on a basic. All right, enough said about that, guys. I appreciate being with you today. That's all that we have. This is a short conversation. Really want to keep it so simple that you could take this concept and run with it and have it deployed in your business in a way that works. How are you going to use this? How is this going to change the way that you perform in your business? Is it something you're willing to take on? If not, why not? Has this been an approach for you up until now? If not, why? What's going to be the next thing that you're going to do in your business to make sure that you have sure 100% clear winning results? That's the game, guys. Thanks. It's been great being with you again. I'll see you next week. I'm in my new office, people. I'm excited to be here. We moved last week, which is why we were not on the call last week. We're actually doing that process all day long. And now we're back online delivering some key information to you, some value. All right. So I'll see you next week. Have a great one, guys. Talk soon.